I remember when I was a kid, I actually ended up going to jail. And the way this ended up happening was not the smartest thing in the world, but I will say this, prison is not fun, especially when you're only 16. But before we get into this story, make sure you guys press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Seriously, it means a lot when you guys do this and also changes my life for the better. But other than that, let's just jump straight into this insane story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to a really embarrassing story time. So today's story all takes place back in my high school year and when I was only 15. Yeah, I was 15 years old, turning 16 around this time, and let's just say I wasn't the smartest kid ever. Yes, I was young and charming and handsome, and I still am to this day, but the main thing was that back when I was in high school, I was a total player, meaning that if there was a girl in my vicinity that I thought was attractive, chances were that I was gonna go to her and try to rizz her up. And I remember one time when I was in high school, there was a girl that I was always kind of interested in, but at the same time never went to, because she was always jumping from relationship to relationship, and it kind of seemed like that this girl was always never able to be single. But I remember there was one time where my buddy walked up to me and he told me, yo, Bubba, you know the girl that you've been like kind of like staring at throughout school? Yeah, what about her? You know she's actually like single now, right? Like she's actually single. I remember when I heard that, I decided right at that moment to sprint for the hallways and go straight to her, because obviously this was my golden opportunity. I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna walk up to her, say I think she's attractive, get her Snapchat, and just instantly rizz her up and then just ask her out right then and there, right at that moment. Was it the smart idea? No, but at the same time, we were in high school. A lot of teenagers, when they're under pressure, they usually just end up saying yes. Not something you should take advantage of, but still. Going on with the story, I remember that's exactly what I did, and I started running down the hallways. I started sprinting towards down the hallway and finding this girl wherever she was at. And I remember she was standing outside her art class, and she was just basically taking a break and just taking a breather, because apparently the classroom smelled like paint all the time, and inhaling paint is never a good thing. I remember when I saw her, I walked up to her and said, hey, what you up to? Oh, nothing, just chilling, just taking a break. What's up? I was just curious, like, what you up to after school today? Nothing. Why? Well, I don't know, like, I always thought you were cute, so like, do you want to like maybe like hang out after school today? She looks at me and starts kind of like giggling and smiling, and she's like, yeah, sure, I don't mind. Okay, cool. Okay, so what's your snap? Here, let me just add you real quick. I ended up adding her on Snapchat, and I also got her phone number, which was also a bonus, can I say. And from there, I ended up heading back to my classroom that I was already in. Once I walked back into my classroom, my friend looked at me and he saw the smile on my face, and he knew that that day was a good day for me, until it really wasn't. Because I remember what ends up happening next was super embarrassing, and I gotta say, put me in jail. I remember after school came, and basically from there, I ended up heading towards the front of the school, and I met up with this girl that I asked out that day. And me and her, we ended up basically walking towards the mall, and once we got there, I remember me and her were just walking around, hanging out, going to different, you know, stores, and basically doing some window shopping. Yes, we were window shopping because as a high schooler, I wasn't rich or didn't have any money at the time to just blow like it was nothing. So yeah, we were basically window shopping and walking around until this girl said, hey, like, is it cool if we go to the food court? I'm kind of hungry. Yeah, sure. What do you feel like eating? I don't know. We'll just see when we get there. I remember when me and her, when we ended up going to the food court, things got really, really bad because I noticed that this girl ended up getting super, super nervous. I didn't know why. And I remember I looked at her and said, hey, like, is everything all right? You seem like kind of nervous and scared. Is something going on? No, nothing's going on. It's just, I saw someone I'm not a fan of. That you're not a fan of? Like, what do you mean? Like an artist, a musician, a YouTuber? Like, what are you not a fan of? And then that's when she kind of like told me not to turn around because her ex-boyfriend was at the mall. Now, guys, I'm gonna give a piece of advice before we continue. If the girl you're seeing is exes or anywhere in your vicinity, get them out of there right away. Don't hang out. Don't try to show off. Don't try to be any better, because let's just say it gets worse and worse as you do it. And you guys will see why in this story, because I remember right when she told me that, I decided to be a slayer or a player to the maximum, and I grabbed her by the waist and started walking with her around the food court so this guy would clearly know that this girl was taken. Was this a smart thing to do? Well, no, because I remember what ends up happening next was that this guy kept staring at me and her nonstop, and I could tell that this girl was getting super uncomfortable with what was going on. She wasn't uncomfortable about me putting my arm around her. She was more uncomfortable with the fact that her ex-boyfriend kept staring like he was a hawk trying to hunt his prey. So I remember at that point, I ended up looking at her and saying, yo, like, if you want to get out of here, I don't mind. She ended up shaking her head yes, and as me and her stood up, I instantly started heading towards, you know, the exit for the food court. But at that moment, this ex-boyfriend thought it was a bright idea to walk up to me and say, yo, bro, I see you're hanging out with my sloppy seconds. Dude, are you kidding me? Did you actually just call her sloppy seconds? And I remember this guy ended up walking up to me, pushing his chest onto me, saying, yeah, bro, that's exactly what I said. What are you gonna do about it? And me and him, we ended up jumping into a fight. Yeah, we literally fought in the mall food court. Was it a smart idea? No, but I mean, he was pressing me, so why why not? I remember me and him, we start pushing each other. We pushed each other. We started punching each other. I pushed this guy up against the wall and started punching his stomach as much as I could to make him feel kind of winded. But then at that moment, I remember he ended up pushing me back and he ended up reaching for his pocket and he pulled out a knife. He pulled out a knife and I saw it in my vicinity. And at that point, people started freaking out in the mall. Now, I remember when this person pulled out a knife, I started being like, okay, I gotta do what I gotta do. So I remember he ended up running right towards me with this knife and I grabbed him by his wrist as fast as I could and slammed it on the table until he dropped the knife. When he dropped the knife, me and him, we ended up going onto the ground and basically like grabbing each other and basically wrestling at that point. And then mall security came and also cops came out of nowhere. When cops ended up showing up, me and him were separated into separate parts of the food court and we were getting a talking to. And one of the cops, when he was walking around the food court, instantly he saw that there was a knife on the ground and he picked it up and said, "Whose knife is this?" I remember at that moment, I instantly pointed at him saying, "Yo, that's his knife. He pulled it out on me." But this other person, which was the ex, ended up looking at me saying, "Nah, bro, like, it's not my knife. It definitely is his." And instantly at that moment, since none of us claimed the knife, he ended up taking us both to jail. Yeah, he actually ended up taking us to jail and we got banned from the mall for a year. A whole year not allowed going into the mall. But obviously I ended up breaking that rule because I ended up getting a haircut so I wouldn't look recognizable. But instantly at that moment, me and him, we ended up getting escorted to the police cars and we both ended up heading down to the station. So me at this moment, I was obviously panicking and freaking out. And I was thinking, you know what? I'm 15 years old. They're not going to charge me. But at the same time, why would they take me to the police station? It makes no sense. And then afterwards, when we got there, basically me and this guy were put into a separate cell and we ended up sitting in jail until our parents come to pick us up. Now, the thing that sucked was that both my parents worked at the time. So none of my parents were able to pick me up until like 5 hours later. So I ended up sitting in a jail cell for 5 hours. I was hungry. I was starving. Sitting in a cell made me almost go insane. I felt like I was in a Mr. Beast video trying to figure out what was I going to do with my life and how am I going to occupy myself. Obviously, I had different moments when I was in jail where I ended up doing push-ups, where I ended up basically just staring at the wall, laying down, looking at the roof. And by the way, the bed in the cell was just straight up cement. Like, it wasn't even an actual bed. Like, prison actually just sucks. I remember I got to a point where I ended up seeing, funny enough, the kid that was fighting me getting picked up by his parents. And his parents were really upset at him. But as he was walking past my cell, he ended up seeing me and laughing and kept walking away. And me, I didn't know when my parents were gonna come. I didn't have my phone with me. I didn't have anything with me. I just had, well, I guess me. I was super scared and I remember I ended up looking around and I asked for a phone call, but sadly, that's actually only a thing in movies, funny enough, is what they told me. So I ended up waiting another basically 3 hours. I was in the cell for almost 8 hours. It was late at night and my dad came and picked me up after he got a call that I was sitting in a prison cell. He ended up picking me up really upset and really just annoyed that I got arrested. But honestly, I wasn't charged for anything. So, I mean, he wasn't that mad, I guess, because my whole future wasn't ruined. But he basically told me at that moment, "Bubba, this is why you do smart things in life, not the stupid things." To this day, I still think about how he said that, but honestly, it made me realize that I never want to go to jail. Anyways, guys, that is basically it for today's embarrassing story. Make sure you guys press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like I always say, just follow for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.